Picture this: World War II, a time of global conflict, and at the forefront, the Red Army, the military force of the Soviet Union. This formidable entity, bristling with might and resilience, played a pivotal role in the most destructive war in human history. The Red Army is often hailed for its sheer tenacity, enduring the harshest of conditions and turning the tide against the Axis powers. But what if we told you that there's more to the story? What if the Red Army, as we know it, isn't quite the invincible force it's often portrayed as? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of history and delve into the reasons why some consider this reputation of the Red Army overrated. The Red Army's involvement in World War II was undoubtedly massive, engaging millions of soldiers on the Eastern Front. Its reputation was built on the sacrifices and valor of these soldiers, who fought tooth and nail against a highly mechanized and tactically advanced enemy. Yet, despite their undeniable resolve, there were factors at play that have led some to question the Army's overall effectiveness. We'll be exploring the pre-war situation of the Soviet Union, shedding light on the economic and industrial challenges they faced. These challenges, in many ways, set the stage for the initial setbacks against the German Army. We'll also be taking a closer look at the staggering number of Soviet casualties, a grim testament to the high price the Red Army paid in the war. These losses, in terms of both human lives and military equipment, were monumental, and question the efficiency of the Red Army's strategy. Furthermore, we'll delve into the educational system and military training within the Soviet Union. The deficiencies in these areas had a profound impact on the readiness and effectiveness of the Red Army. As we delve into history, let's question the narrative and explore the possible overrating of the Red Army. Remember, history isn't just about winners and losers, it's about understanding the complexities and the nuances that define our past. So let's get started. To fully understand the Red Army's role, we must first revisit the Soviet Union's pre-war situation. The years leading up to World War II were a tumultuous time for the Soviet Union, grappling with economic and industrial challenges. Rapid industrialization, though impressive on paper, was marred by inefficiencies and a lack of resources. The Soviet Union was playing catch-up with the rest of the world, and the strains were evident. The Soviet economy was heavily centralized, with the state controlling all aspects of production. This led to a lack of flexibility and adaptability, which would prove to be a significant disadvantage in the years to come. The nation was also shaken by the purges under Stalin's regime, which saw the execution and imprisonment of many experienced military leaders. This left the Red Army in a vulnerable position, lacking in experienced leadership when war broke out. On the eve of World War II, the Soviet Union found itself in a precarious position. In 1939, they signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany, known as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This agreement, however, was short-lived. In 1941, the German army launched Operation Barbarossa, a full-scale invasion of the Soviet Union, breaching the pact. The initial setbacks against the German army were significant. The Red Army was ill-prepared for the scale and intensity of the German offensive. The German Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, caught the Soviets off guard, leading to massive losses and territory being ceded to the invaders. The Red Army struggled to mount an effective defense, and the German army seemed unstoppable. The consequences of the non-aggression pact and the initial setbacks against the German army were profound. The Red Army was on the back foot, forced into a defensive position from the onset. These early failures cast a long shadow over the Red Army's subsequent achievements, leading to the perception that they were overrated. The stage was set for a conflict that would test the mettle of the Red Army like never before. In the face of the enemy, the Red Army suffered losses that were nothing short of staggering. The casualty rates were astronomical, painting a grim picture of the human cost of conflict. It's important to remember that behind every statistic, there were individual lives, families, and communities forever altered by the war. The Red Army lost millions of soldiers during the course of the Second World War. While every nation suffered, the Soviet Union's losses were on a scale all their own. The sheer magnitude of these numbers often obscures the individual tragedies that made up this staggering total. In addition to the high casualty rates, there were also instances of large-scale captures. In the Battle of Kiev in 1941, for instance, a staggering 650,000 Soviet soldiers were taken prisoner. This was not an isolated incident. Throughout the war, there were multiple instances where entire armies were encircled and captured, exacerbating the already high casualty rates. But it's not just about the numbers. Each loss represented a life cut short, a story left unfinished. The human cost of the conflict was immense, and it's essential to remember this when we talk about the Red Army's role in the war. Furthermore, these enormous losses had a profound impact on the Soviet Union. Entire generations were decimated, and the country was left with a significant demographic imbalance that lasted for decades. The echoes of these losses can still be felt today. The Red Army's high casualty rates are a testament to the brutal nature of the conflict. They underscore the human cost of war and the sacrifices made by millions in the fight against fascism. They also highlight the strategic and tactical shortcomings that contributed to these losses. However, it's essential to view these figures within the broader context of the war. The Red Army's high casualty rates were a result of numerous factors, including the strategic situation, the nature of the conflict, and the decisions made by the Soviet leadership. The price of war was steep, and the Red Army paid it in full. Behind the lines of battle, another challenge loomed for the Red Army education and training. The Soviet Union, in the throes of war, had to grapple with the daunting task of educating and training its soldiers, many of whom were merely civilians turned warriors overnight. The Soviet education system at the time was characterized by a significant degree of illiteracy. Many soldiers joining the Red Army were peasants from the countryside with little to no formal education. This lack of basic knowledge posed a profound challenge when it came to training them in the sophisticated art of warfare, let alone the operation of complex military machinery. Furthermore, the military training provided by the Soviet Union was often inadequate. The rapid expansion of the Red Army meant that there was a lack of experienced officers to train new recruits. The pressure to put boots on the ground led to a rushed training process, often skipping over crucial lessons in tactics and strategy. This resulted in a force that was large in number but lacking in tactical finesse. These educational and training deficiencies had a significant impact on the performance of the Red Army. Soldiers without a solid understanding of tactical maneuvers were more likely to make mistakes in the field, leading to unnecessary casualties. The inability to operate military equipment effectively could also result in the loss of valuable resources. Moreover, the lack of education extended beyond the battlefield. It impeded communication within the ranks and with Allied forces. Language barriers and the lack of a common military language meant that coordinating large-scale operations was a Herculean task. In essence, the Red Army was not just fighting against a formidable enemy, but also against its own internal challenges. The battle was not just on the front lines, but also in the minds of the soldiers. The lack of education and training was a significant handicap, one that underscores the complexity of the Red Army's role in World War II, and perhaps offers another perspective on why some consider it overrated. The battle was not just on the front lines, but also in the minds of the soldiers. The Red Army's role cannot be denied, however. It's important to recognize the full picture. Despite the significant challenges and high casualty rates, the Red Army did play a pivotal role in World War II. Their resilience, determination, and sheer numbers were instrumental in turning the tide of the war. These are the facts, and they are indisputable. Yet it's also important not to overlook the shortcomings. The high casualty rates, the initial setbacks, and the educational and training challenges suggest that perhaps the Red Army was not as invincible as often portrayed. This is not to diminish their contribution, but to offer a more nuanced understanding of their role. We encourage you to explore this further. Dive into the complexities of World War II history, read books, watch documentaries, and form your own opinions. The Red Army's story is one of strength and sacrifice, but also of shortcomings and overestimations. In the grand tapestry of World War II, the Red Army's thread is both bold and controversial. We've revisited the pre-war circumstances that the Soviet Union grappled with, and the initial setbacks they faced against the German army. We've also shed light on the staggering casualty rates and instances of large-scale losses. Furthermore, we've discussed the educational and training challenges that the Red Army had to overcome. However, let's not forget the pivotal role the Red Army played in the war. Their contributions, though often overshadowed by controversy, were significant. This exploration merely scratches the surface of a complex historical narrative. The importance of a nuanced understanding of history cannot be overstated. As we close this chapter, remember, history is not black and white. We encourage you to delve deeper into the complexities of World War II and form your own understanding. Read books, watch documentaries, and never stop questioning. Because only then can we truly appreciate the intricate web that is our shared past.